This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and here we are, the Dr. Sem Yankees Show. Today is Saturday, March the 22nd, 2025. Opening day for the Yankees, less than 1 week away. So today we're going to spend some time looking at the strengths and the weaknesses that I see in the 2025 Yankees, and then we will sort of extrapolate out some bigger questions, such as, what is the best type of player you would want for your team? Do you want the superstar who is a great all-around player? Or do you want the guy that dominates? We'll talk about that. Also, another big question will be, is it better to be the best of a collection of weak teams or weak opponents? Or should the goal be to just be the best and to be better than other greats? Some deep questions. We'll try to examine all of this and more on the Dr. Sem Show today. But let's make today a great day. And how do you make your day great? It's very simple. You look around and you notice the good. And when you find the good, you appreciate it. You see, when you notice good things around you, you can't help but have a good day because you say there's so much good. What's there not to be happy about? And then you can make your day even greater by gathering that good, appreciating that good, and giving it to others. If you can't find any good, that's also a great way to make your day great. By doing something nice for somebody else. So make today great for yourself and for others by appreciating, noticing, and perpetuating the good that's out there. All right, let's get to the Yankees. But first, this program is brought to you by Artemisia Publishing, a fantastic publisher located in the United States of America. A traditional publisher with a vast selection of great books, including numerous titles written by me. My new Yankee book will be out next February 2026. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. More details to come in the weeks and months ahead. Check out apbooks.net for a vast selection of fantastic and award-winning books. And now we'll get to the Yankees. And of course, you can see lots of Yankee news on startspreadingthenews.blog each and every day. So what are the strengths that I see for the 2025 Yankees? I think one thing we're going to see is a better brand of baseball. I think you're going to see players who are much more athletic. If you look around the diamond, players who were less athletic have been moved away from the Yankees. Guys who weren't necessarily great baseball thinkers, who weren't always maybe attuned to the game, have sort of been jettisoned away or have moved on. And I think you're going to see a Yankee team that's much more involved in the game, much more understanding the nuances of the game. And when we say stuff like this, people think we're talking about the absence of Gleyber Torres, and that's a big step in the right direction. Gleyber, very talented, but also didn't always hustle, didn't always seem to have baseball smarts. But it's not just Gleyber Torres. You know, his partner on the right side of the Yankee infield, Anthony Rizzo, we saw it twice in the World Series. He didn't back up second base on a play that allowed Ohtani to go to third on an overthrow. Bad short hop that Gleyber Torres didn't get in front of, and the ball bounced behind him. And then rather than having Anthony Rizzo there to pick up the ball and keep the runner at second, no one was there. And he moved on. And then we saw in the last game of the World Series, Anthony Rizzo on a ground ball. Garrett Cole didn't get over there, and Anthony Rizzo sort of didn't rush to the bag himself. So I think we saw, those are just two examples. I mean, you can look at Giancarlo Stanton and the fact that he doesn't run and can't run. I think we're going to see a lot better baseball being played by the Yankees. I think we're going to see faster runners. I think Cody Bellinger is an improvement. I think you see guys like Anthony Volpe and Jason Dominguez and a full season of Jazz Chisholm. And you're going to say, this is a team that seems to play a much better brand of heads-up baseball. They can go the extra base. They bring that athleticism to the field. And I think it'll be exciting. I think that will be an exciting part of the game. I also think, as a negative, though, when you're relying on a lot of young kids to make it all work, you're asking, in many regards, probably for too much. For the Yankees to be successful, their catcher, Austin Wells, has to almost be an all-star. He has to be at least very good, defensively and offensively. I wrote extensively last week on Start Spreading the News, and we had a great discussion in the comments. Some people took me to task. I believe they were wrong, but we'll find out at the end of the season. I'm not a fan of Austin Wells hitting leadoff. I don't think it makes sense. Now, it just might work. And if it does, that's great. But the Yankees will need Austin Wells to be a productive bat. They're also going to need Anthony Volpe to be a solid bat. They're going to need whoever plays third base to be a solid bat. And that's going to be either Oswaldo Cabrera or Oswald Peraza. I'm not sure whom. They're going to need Ben Rice as the DH to be a positive bat. And they're going to need Jason Dominguez in left field to be a positive hitter. That's asking a lot. The catcher, the DH, the shortstop, the third baseman, and the left fielder to all step up and be positive contributors to a lineup. Wow. I mean, if it happens and we have all these kids doing great, this is going to be an exciting team. But if just two of them don't do the job and they prove that they're not major league hitters, Well, that's 22% of your lineup. That's not going to hit. That's a lot of outs to give away. The Yankees don't really have an answer for third base. If Cabrera or Peraza can't get the job done, that's an empty spot in the lineup offensively. And I know so many want to say Austin Wells has proved himself and Jason Dominguez has already proved himself. I don't think they have. Remember, Austin Wells hit only 111 in September last year. People can attribute that to whatever they want. But the fact is, well, maybe he was hurt, maybe not. Maybe he was tired, maybe not. But the fact remains he hit 111 at the end of the year last year. Jason Dominguez had a hot week a couple of years ago at this point. That was a long time ago, and 1 week proves nothing. Ben Rice is smashing the ball in spring training, and that's great. But I do find it interesting that at the same time that people say Ben Rice is showing he's a major league hitter by doing great in spring training, they also immediately say, but the fact that Aaron Judge isn't hitting doesn't mean anything. These spring training stats are super important. Those spring training stats don't matter. And I know you could make the argument one's an up-and-coming young player, one's the old veteran, the two-time MVP. His numbers shouldn't mean as much. I don't think any of the numbers mean anything. That's my point. It's spring training. If I hit a ground ball up the middle and, I don't know, Willie Randolph from 1977, 78, 79 is playing second base, he's going to get that ball, and I'm going to be out. My batting average will be 0. During the baseball season, that's what will happen most often. When you hit the ball, there will be a major league quality player at another position who will, most often, if it's fieldable, make the play, and you'll be out. But that's not what happens in spring training. You get up there, you hit the ground ball towards second base, and the guy playing there might be the 5th string second baseman, and it goes through. Because that guy's not a major leaguer, and he might never play in the major leagues. But all of a sudden, you're batting 1,000. A bloop in front of a 4th string center fielder. A line drive in the gap against a pitcher who won't be on the squad. Spring training is practice. We have seen a host of players have phenomenal spring training stats and then prove unable or prove an inability to get the job done in the regular season. So I don't put a whole lot of stock in how kids are doing or anybody is doing in spring training. And I know there's reason to be hopeful. Ben Rice is smashing the ball. Austin Wells looks great. Maybe. Jason Dominguez seems to be coming around. Maybe. But the Yankees are going to be expecting a lot out of a lot of kids in order to make this thing work. Another weakness I think the Yankees have is that they don't have a leadoff hitter. I touched upon that just now. I don't think Austin Wells is a leadoff hitter. I know some people say, oh, he'll be great there. Maybe he will. We'll find out at the end of the season. I tend to trust the collective wisdom of those who came before us. I sort of think like the collective wisdom, by and large, not always, but can at least help lead the way to good decisions. There are those, though, that say if you just follow the past, saying that's the way it was, you're making mistakes. And I understand that as well. Just because something was done in the past doesn't mean it should be done in the future. But here's where their logic falls. it also doesn't mean we shouldn't do it now or in the future. Whenever anyone goes against conventional thinking, they say, well, just because it was done in the past doesn't mean you need to do it now or in the future. And that makes sense. But what they fail to discuss is the fact that, well, just because it's now doesn't mean necessarily that what they did in the past was wrong. People stop at red lights. They've been stopping at red lights forever. Just because they did it in the past, no, I think they really should keep doing it. Think about it, right? Some things we've done in the past, we still want to keep doing now and in the future. It can't, people like to have these things like, well, yeah, but that's different, right? I'm okay with that thing. But when you bring up the collective wisdom, they say, oh, don't listen to the collective wisdom because that doesn't mean it's right. Those things we did in the past are right, so I'll accept those, but to argue you and your point now, I'm going to say don't take what's happening from the past and use it to now, because that specific thing doesn't count. They want it both ways. Anyway, in the history of baseball, catchers have very rarely, if ever, been leadoff hitters. There's been a lot of reasons for that. Again, we discussed a lot of that in the comments last week on Start Spreading the News. You can go back and see all the discussion and the debate. But I tend to think that if every single team, virtually, across every single league, major leagues, for a century, from diverse managers to diverse catchers to diverse lineups, to strong lineups, to weak lineups, from good teams to bad teams to average teams. Teams don't bat catchers leadoff. Now, I'm not saying that teams can't because of that, but I think that should at least guide some of our thinking. I wonder why not. What are the nuances that teams use to say, I don't want a catcher hitting leadoff? Maybe we should examine that. And maybe, like the Yankees try to do so often, maybe their approach, the Yankees, isn't necessarily the right approach. I get the sense often that the Yankees think they're smarter than everyone else and the collective wisdom of everyone else. Like when they put Isaiah Kiner-Falefa into the outfield. Oh, we could do that. He's good. He could be an outfielder. No. And he wasn't. But the Yankees that year seemed to know better. Or the years when they didn't have any left-handed hitting in the lineup. We don't need left-handed hitting. I was here on this show and on Start Spreading the News for years when no one else was saying it. The Yankees can't win without left-handed power. I wrote many an article on that. During the time, well, the Yankee backers, all the Yankee apologists kept saying, well, they can win. They know what they're doing. No, they didn't. And they went away from that approach because it made no sense. But for a little period of time, for a little while, they thought they knew better than everybody else, right? So I think there's a sense that catchers shouldn't hit leadoff. Maybe Austin Wells will be the difference and the guy who can pull it off. But I just don't think so. All right. I have said many times here that I also don't think that the Yankee pitching staff is very good. The starting staff, Max Fried, and then a bunch of guys who you're just hoping. It's just Marcus Stroman. He's a .500 pitcher throughout his career. He was terrible last year. Every year he gets worse. Will Warren has not been good in the major leagues or in AAA. Clark Schmidt, it doesn't seem like he's 100% healthy. Carlos Rodon, at best, was an average pitcher last year. The year before, he was terrible. Carlos Carrasco, I don't think has had a positive year since 2018 or something, not counting the COVID year. That's your starting rotation. And there's really no depth beyond that. That's a scary proposition. And I think the Yankees, and we talked about this a lot a couple of weeks ago, I think they're in trouble with their starting rotation. So it could be a fun team. I think they're going to play better defense. I think they're going to play better heads-up baseball because I think they've moved away players who were less engaged. And I think guys like Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger are really going to help round out the team. I think the athleticism of Jazz Chisholm is going to be a positive. It's going to be fun. I think he and Anthony Volpe might make for a dynamic up the middle second baseman and shortstop tandem there. That could really be fun. And I have high hopes on the kids. But again, the Yankees are going to be expecting a lot from the kids. So I teased this at the start, and then the time just gets away from us. 30 minutes just isn't enough time. But I'm going to draw a comparison to the American League in 2025 to other periods in another sport where there was greatness that abounded. One of the reasons people, and I think it is the primary reason people are excited about the Yankees in 2025, in addition to the fact that they might be more fun with the young kids and all that kind of stuff, is the fact that they say the rest of the American League isn't good. The Yankees don't have to be great. They just have to be not as bad as everybody else. And I guess that's true. If you're the best team of a bunch of bad teams, you're still going to win the pennant, and you might even go to the World Series. And I guess that's great. It just goes against my philosophies, my way of thinking in life. You see, I believe you should try to be your best at whatever you do. You'll fall short. That's part of it. You'll fail often. That's part of it. But you should still try to be your best in whatever you do. I don't think you should say, I just want to be a little bit better than the people who aren't good at all, or the teams that aren't good at all. You know, there was an era in boxing in the 80s when there was Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran, Hands of Stone. Each considered among the greatest in their era and all time in their weight divisions. And they all fought against each other. And it led to a period where you had greatness begetting more greatness. In the 70s, you had a similar thing in the heavyweight division with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and George Foreman. Great fighters all fighting against each other. Meaning that if you won, you really were something special because you beat the best of the best. Ali is considered one of the greatest fighters of all time because he fought the best. That, if I owned the team, would be what I would be striving for. I would be wanting the team not just to beat up on a mediocre or lousy league, but to strive to be the best. I think the great sports stories come when the best teams or the best individuals compete against each other to determine who really is greater. I think the whole thing loses a little luster when the objective is to say, well, you know, I know our starting rotation isn't great. I know we don't have a leadoff hitter. I'm not sure about our third baseman. We don't even know if it'll be anybody any good. We are going to hope on a lot of kids and maybe it'll work. But none of that matters because guess what? The rest of the league stinks. So we don't have to be good. We only have to be a little better than some bad teams. I think when that's the approach, And if that's what's getting Yankee fans excited, I have to say that's not what gets me excited. If the Yankees win 88 games because the rest of the league is terrible, and the Yankees really aren't so good, but they're better than the rest of these teams, I don't know. I guess we'll be happy that they're in the playoffs, but to me, it'll be unsatisfying. Oh, yeah, remember the 2025 Yankees. They were fun. They were really not that good, but, well, they were better than a bunch of bad teams. Yeah, that was exciting. They were the least bad of the bad, right? I don't know. I'd rather say I rooted for, pick any of them. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He was who I rooted for. I mean, Sugar Ray Leonard beat him. So which of those were better? Who? Which of the two? I don't know. I'm not a boxing historian. But my goodness, if you beat the best, that tends to mean that you are the best. If you beat mediocre guys, I don't know if history then looks upon you and says, well, the 2025 Yankees were really great because they made it to the World Series after beating a bunch of bad teams. In fact, that's really what happened last year. The Yankees got through the playoffs by beating lesser teams, not by beating better teams. I'd rather have an approach like the Los Angeles Dodgers and say, we are going to do whatever we can. And that's the way the Yankees used to operate. We are going to do whatever we can to be the best we can possibly be. All right, my friends, I teased this as well, and we're just not going to get to it. We're not going to have enough time. Ponder on this. I may put this as the question for the readers thread tomorrow on Sunday. Something else might come up and I might go with a different idea. But there's this idea that in order to be an excellent or very good player, you need to be excellent or very good or elite at all sorts of different skills. You have to be able to hit for average, hit for power, run, field, throw. And that definition is used to discredit a player like Juan Soto, who is not a great runner and is at best an indifferent fielder. But I don't believe, my position is that in order for a player to be great, he doesn't need to be great in every area. I think Juan Soto was great. And so the question I really want to ask, and I really want to get to know, and maybe we'll discuss it next week, is would you rather have Reggie Jackson, who was certainly, by the time he was on the Yankees, not a 5-tool player? He could hit for power. He hit for kind of average. He hit 300 once in his 5 years as a Yankee. I think that was the only time he hit 300 in his whole career. But he was a tremendous hitter. No doubt about that. He did still have a pretty good arm, but he did not have range in the outfield. He, at one time, was a pretty good runner. I don't think he was an especially good runner on the Yankees. Would you rather have him, Reggie, or would you rather have a player like Dave Winfield, who was great at everything? He was a 5-tool player throughout his entire Yankee career. Which of the two, if you were building a team and you could have them from their Yankee career, would you pick if there were a draft? I'd take Reggie, even without the other skills, because I think Reggie, even without the other skills, was still great. Just like I think Juan Soto was great. All right. Time goes too quickly. We're already at a half an hour and beyond. So I will say, make today great. Look for the good. Have fun. Let's go Yankees. And of course, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.